Hey, everybody. Welcome to the One Day Closer podcast. And I'm your host, Jay. But I tell you, we'll keep the applause short for me. Because believe it or not, right? Yeah, that's right. We got Christy. All right.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, look, people were getting worried. They like, when's that woman going to get back on there? So you're making a lot of people happy. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you calling in on I'm sure where there's a blustery Alaska day up there.
Yeah, we got a fresh layer of snow. So.
All right. Well, I'm not going to rub it in, but I think we're going to hit like 72, 73 here today. So.
Of course you are.
Yeah. Unlike when it was snowing here, and I think it was more snow and colder here than you had up there. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, enough of the weather reports. Thanks again for calling in, babe. And
of course.
on the last episode, real quick, I'll recap for the people that heard my last episode. Is I talked about MMN and what it is, right? Because it was MMN Awareness Month, February. So we still got a couple more days left to that, and that was a great episode and had some great response to that. And hopefully I was able to raise some awareness and educate some people. So I appreciate everybody that tuned into that. And for me and you, the episode before that, where we left off, I was getting discharged from Spring Hill Hospital. The doctor was graciously telling us that he had no clue what was going on, and I could go sit and be home and be in the comfort of my own home, right? Is what he told us.
What he told us, yeah. We weren't sure what was going on. And they were trying to get us in with a specialist there a local specialist.
Yeah.
And by that time, I had already started looking up where we were going to go, what was my next plan, as I wasn't just going to go home and sit and wait. Not a patient person. Yeah,
no, I would never guess that, man. You talk about looking up, right, to see our next move. I think that was, like I said, that week was the week that we actually found the GBS Foundation's website and the resource that turned out to be, right? Because wasn't that where you found some information?
It is, yeah. That is the week that we found the GBS website, and I found information on, I think it was 3 different facilities that were doing a lot of research with neuromuscular diseases, and UAB just happened to be one of them. The other was in Boston, and the other one was in California.
Yeah, it's so cool. Of course, like I said, that last episode I did about the, kind of just to help raise awareness. So I went to the website, and again, for those listening, it's the GBS International website. It's gbsinternational.org, or no, actually it's gbscidp.org. And do you know that there's over 20 hospitals now in the United States that are shown as like partner facilities? Isn't that great?
That's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, because there was very few previously.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you found it, my gosh, it was like 3 or 4, or no more than 5 for the whole country. And I just did like a quick count the other day when I was on the website, and it was like right at 20 or maybe slightly over it, but definitely more spread out too. Yep. Of course, your major cities, which we don't think of Birmingham as being one, right? But that was when you zeroed in. And I remember you telling me, like, hey, UAB is researching this disease. And just to think now, patients nowadays will have that ability to have more facilities closer. Of course, I'm a little partial. I will always recommend UAB, right? And
right, yeah.
So we get sent home, I was hoping to see the local specialist. And, of course, you were working, and we had to hire a sitter. And, for the life of me, I cannot remember that young lady's name. Do you remember her name?
No, I don't.
Ashley or something like that?
Or Brittany. Ashley or Brittany.
Brittany, yeah. Anyway, I know when I talked about it originally back like in episode 3 of the first season, and she was so sweet. You know, we come from polar opposite worlds, and but she was so sweet. We got along so good. But for us, you know, and this is where I one of the things I want to help with the foundation is, you know, we were hemorrhaging money, right? I mean, my gosh, what was it, like $300 a day to have her come sit, and that was a
Uh,
bargain. Wasn't it about that or somewhere close to that?
it was about that. I'm trying to think because technically I think we only had her for one full week.
Yeah,
So I was trying to think of how much I paid for that week. But yeah, I think it was about $300 a day
yeah,
to have her come and sit with you.
yeah. Which I mean, you know, thank God that didn't keep up, you know, and which will bring us, I guess, to the next part of the story. So, you know, like I said, back in an earlier episode in that first season, like episode 2 or 3, you know, I talk about having a fall at the house and hit my head. And then we don't have to go too deep into that because, like I said, I've told the whole story. And the funny story about her calling 911 to have the fire department come get me off the ground. But let's hear, yeah, you know, everybody loves to hear your perspective. So starting with that, right? So I call you and I tell you, hey, I fell, I hit my head. Now, you know, we both know I'm on a lot of blood thinners at the time, especially. And of course, I think
Right.
I was trying to talk you out of, you were telling me to get my butt to the hospital. And I was trying to convince you that I was fine and you wouldn't accept that. But what were your thoughts then? Kind of like, oh, hey, just add this to the pile of stuff, or what were you
Yeah,
thinking?
pretty much. I was like, "You got to be kidding me." Like after we had only been home for a few days, and I was looking at how am I going to get him into these programs, these research programs, because it was like months. It was like a year for one appointment at UAB, and it was going to be like a month for the other appointment. I was like, we can't wait that long. So in my mind, I'm going through how can I make this happen? Do I just need to do an ER visit to UAB? What can I do to make this work? So I have that going on in my mind, and I'm really consumed with finding out a way to fix this. So like almost all of my day, I'm at work, and but any moment of the day that I'm not with a patient, I'm researching and trying to find information on where I can go, who can help me, if anybody's come up with any new ideas or medications or treatment plans about for this disease. Because at this time we were still going with CIDP.
Yeah.
Uh, Although we were CIDP is what the diagnosis was, but they had no idea because you were nothing. You didn't follow the pattern of CIDP at all. But that was the closest box they could put you in.
Yeah, that was
So,
the little box they were trying to make me fit into.
right.
Yeah.
Um,
You know that
so I
fall.
will say,
Go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say how that fall. You know, both of us, right? We're just so kind of down on that. But in a way, that fall turned out to be one of our biggest blessings, right?
It actually did. Yeah, of course, initially it didn't seem that
Yeah.
way, but yes, it did turn out to be one of our biggest blessings is you falling and cracking your skull.
Yeah.
Um, I will say, like all that week having the sitter there at the house was very hard for me. It was a very different feeling. Um, I would, I guess, almost compare it to like when you have a sitter for your children, right? So you're leaving your loved ones in the care of someone else, and it's just like you know there's a limit on what that person can do, right? They're dependent on this other person to take care of them, and you're just praying that you know your intuitions are right, and this is going to be a good person, and nothing bad's going to happen. And it was very stressful. Like every day to work, it was just I was like on edge continuously, waiting till I got to work, and then of course waiting until I could, you know, call Jay and make sure he was okay, or he was doing voice text so he could voice text me so that I would know he would check in throughout the day. I was about to purchase a nanny cam because I needed to see what was going on at all times.
I forgot about that. Yes.
And
Yes, you were. Yes. I forgot about the
so,
nanny cam purchase that you were heading for. So
yeah, so I
yeah,
was about to purchase a nanny cam, and I get a call from Jay, and he's like, okay, first of all, everything's okay. So anytime he starts off with that, everything is not okay. It is not okay.
what you
So
talking
that's the
about?
first thing. So he's like, okay, first of all, everything's okay. I know it's not. He's like, but I had a little incident at home and I fell. And I said, okay. And he said, well, so he goes through the whole story of what happened when he fell. And I was like, did you hit your head? He's like, well, I think I think it might have bumped the floor a little bit, but it wasn't bad. And I was like, well, then you're going to the hospital. And he's like, no. The fire department just got me up in the chair. And I was like, wait, the fire department had to come get you up? Because conveniently he left that part out until he let it slip. And I said, oh no. So this is not going to work for me. So I was like, you're going to the hospital. You actually don't have a choice. I'm about to get in the car, drive there, and call for an ambulance. Or you can go ahead and call for an ambulance, and I'll meet you at the hospital. I'm going to give you that choice. You have that choice. And so thanks to a really, really, really good friend of Jay's, Ronnie Newman.
Shout out to Newman's Ambulance, man. Greatest ambulance company in the world.
We were able to call them, and they were able to send out a truck, an ambulance, to come and pick you up and transport you to Spring Hill. So when you got to Spring Hill, I was waiting for you in the emergency room, and I'm sure everyone was wishing I was not there because I was a pile of nerves. Because I just knew, I was like, okay, this is it. He's going to have a big head bleed. Now I've got a head bleed on top of everything else. He already can't move. He's already having paralysis. Now we're going to have a head bleed. What is going to happen? So I mean, there's like 1,000 thoughts going through my head, and it was just a very stressful time. Like, I don't even know how to describe sometimes the stress that I would undergo. Like, honestly, I don't think there's good words to describe what it was like. To constantly live my life on edge, waiting for that call because I knew something was going to happen, or constantly on edge because you're not sure if that person's going to take care of your loved one, or constantly on edge if that person, decides to pretend like your loved one's not there and they go off and do whatever and your loved one's home alone for hours and something happens and you come home and find them deceased. Like, these are all thoughts that I have on a regular basis, pretty much throughout the whole day. So when you called and said we were going to the hospital, I was already there and already making plans in my mind where we were going next because I was certain you had a head bleed, what we were going to do. I'd already talked about it with the ER physician. We kind of had a game plan in place. And then once you got there, we got the CT scan, and amazingly, there was no head bleed.
Thank God. Well, and I'll tell you, I did. Of course, we've talked about it since then, but man, I hit the dickens out of my head. Bounced that sucker off the wooden floor for sure.
Remember?
Yeah.
You just barely bumped it.
Yeah.
Remember? Barely bumped it.
But yeah, thank God the CT was clear. And but that's when the story, like I said, what turned out to be, just a terrible day, right? When, like, you just got finished talking about how stressful and all the thoughts going through your mind, and of course I was very concerned myself, even though I was trying to act like everything was okay. But getting the news with the CT,
You really did a good job of of course, I'm pretending like everything's fine as well. And you really did a good job of keeping a positive attitude. That is one thing. The whole time, Jay had the best attitude about all of this. Me, not so much. Jay did a really good job of being positive about everything.
You have
and I wouldn't say I was negative Nancy. I was just saying that I wasn't negative Nancy. I was just more feeling like I was more of a realist of what was happening, whereas Jay was like sunshines and butterflies.
Pollyanna.
And I'm like, it's not. Yeah, really. Yeah. I mean, that's honestly how it was.
Well, but I you know me. I believe that our circumstances, our thoughts can control our direction. So even through that, because I mean, it's not just my illness. I mean, that's how I am. That if you can look on the bright side of even the worst thing, then we can improve our circumstance. So I am guilty of that. I don't think it's a terrible thing, but like I said, at the same time, I was very relieved that there was no bleed, and but that ER visit was, we say that fall was life changing. Or a turning point in the illness, but it wasn't just the fall. The fact that ER visit and Dr. Sprayberry, who I'm going to give a shout out, What an amazing physician and an amazing man. And like I talked about in past episode, right? So when he comes in and asks, "Hey, would y'all be interested in getting transferred to UAB?" You know, and I gave my thoughts on that in
Right.
one of those first 2 or 3 episodes. What were your thoughts when he came in with that?
Well, I'd already been out talking to him about all of that. Like, what are our options? Because I was like, I just can't, like, we can't just go back home like this. Like, this is, what am I supposed to do? You know, and he was like, well, we can admit him here. And I was like, well, what good is that going to do us, right? No good there.
Yeah,
So
that's the
then he
place
was like,
that,
okay,
that
let me
sent me
think about
home,
it.
right?
Right. So then he was like, let me think about it. Let me think about it for a little bit and I'll come talk to you. And I was like, okay. So then he came in and was like, hey, are you opposed to being transferred to UAB? And I was like, absolutely not. We will go right now.
Yeah.
Perfect. That works for me. So I was like, okay, great. Because this is where I wanted to go anyway. It was just going to be a very long time before I could get you in to see them. If you were going the, what you would call right way, doing it by the route, then it would have been a year before you could be seen by them. And so I was like, okay, that's actually a prayer answered. So Sprayberry did his magic and called UAB, and actually the receiving physician at UAB did not want to accept Jay as a transfer.
Not at all.
No, he was like, oh, y'all can give IVIG there, and I think Dr. Sprayberry was trying to say it's more than that, man. Like there's something more. And so basically, Dr. Sprayberry just hounded him until the guy accepted Jay as a transfer.
Yeah, I got turned down 3 times, right? The physician, he had to call back like 3 or 4 times. That physician kept declining the transfer.
Yeah, and I mean he did. And I think at the last time the doctor was like, you're not going to stop calling me. And he's like, I am not going to stop calling you. I will continue to call. And he's like, he's one of us. He's a family. He's part of our family, part of the first responder family, part of the ER family, the local ER family in town, part of the hospital family. And so he was just very adamant or very, very insistent on trying to get us the best help that we could get at that point. And honestly, it was going to UAB. So we just said, yes, of course, we're going to go to UAB. We will. And so he's like, okay. So then he works on it for a little while. And then we get the news, we're going. Like, we're accepted, we're going. And I'm like, holy cow, okay, that happened way quicker than I thought. So I'm guessing that he had already talked to this guy a couple of times before he came in to talk to us, because it seems like once he said we're going, it was very, very quick. Or asked if we were okay with going, it was very, very quick. And it seems like, okay, now we're leaving.
Yeah. Okay. It took all day to get the yes, and then like I said, once it's like, okay, oh, excuse me. Once we got the okay, Betsy always says, still to this day, she said that was her favorite transfer.
Yep. She came in, she had transfer paperwork, and she was like, okay. And of course, we used Newman's, and we were like, we're going to, Newman's is going to transport Jay up to UAB, and I'm going to go home and throw together clothes and then drive like a mad woman to Birmingham so that I can be there.
Yeah.
And I don't think I had a lot of thought at that time because there was a lot of stuff going on. So I was very comfortable with you going to UAB, and I was really comfortable because Ronnie was taking you. So that made me even more comfortable.
Yeah, I was very, very blessed to have him personally get me up there.
Yeah, so I felt really good about that. And then, but everything else was just like, honestly, I went home and I like took a deep breath, and I'm like, what in the actual is going on here? Like, this cannot be my life right now. Like, this just can't be real. This cannot be happening. I think we all go through that. This happens to everybody else, but never happens to you. Well, that's not true. It happens to everyone, and it will happen to you at some point. In some sort of fashion or way, you will go through something that you think you'll never go through. It happens to everybody else, but you will go through it. That is the process of life. And so I remember like throwing stuff together, and I'm like, I don't know how long we're going to be up there. I don't know what's going to happen when we get there. It's just a lot of unknowns. So I just started packing a bag, throwing as much stuff as I could, or what I thought I would need for Jay in there, and just, trying to hurry up and get back on the road. And then I was like, I did stop to get something to eat because I had not eaten all day. I was like, I probably need to get some food before I drive 4 hours to Birmingham. That's probably not a smart thing to do. You can have 5 minutes to stop and get food. So I did. Stopped and got some food, and then started driving to Birmingham. And we talked a few times when you were on the way up there, but I remember the whole time just being very surreal. Kind of like this is not really happening to me, but it's happening to me. It's just like it did not seem real to me that I'm driving to Birmingham to go meet my husband at UAB after he's had this, terrible fall, and we have this disease that no one knows what's going on with.
No, so we talk about, how surreal it was.
Right. It's so surreal. So it's kind of like, so on the way up, I was just like, I got to find something to distract me because I'm driving myself crazy. So I actually found this podcast on true crime, and it became my best friend. And I listened to that podcast on the drive to Birmingham, which I would make several times. So that podcast and I were very well acquainted with each other. And
you and your murder podcast.
Me and my murder podcast. Listening to those podcasts really was able to let me just kind of not think about what was going on and just kind of okay, take a breath, just listen to what's going on, and I don't have to think about my problems for just a few minutes. And it really was very helpful for me to do that. And then I remember getting close to Birmingham and pulling up or getting to the exit where you get off to go to UAB, and University Children's is right there at the interstate, and it's huge, and it's all lit up and everything. And it just looks like, I don't know how to describe it, a beacon. It looks like a beacon. It's like a light shining, like a lighthouse. Yeah. Kind of shining out at the sea. Like you see that and you're like, okay, you have hope, right? You see something. So that's kind of the feeling I got initially when I got there. And then when I had to go find UAB, so it's a huge facility. It's like 12 blocks of hospital clinics. There's multiple hospitals there. It's really large. It's obviously very confusing. And when you're already upset, you have no idea what's going on. Just adding one more thing to the pile of crap that you're going through. So I'm driving around Birmingham, and I think I drove around the hospital probably 6 times before I could figure out where to go park. But what was really funny is I'm driving by one time, and it's close to where the emergency room is. And they have this building that's connected to the hospital. It's a parking garage, but on the bottom of the parking garage, there's restaurants, restaurants where you can go get food. And I remember thinking, oh, this reminds me so much of when we were in Boston.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of how their hospital was set up. So then I really had, for some reason, that thought just stuck with me. And I really just had a lot of hope at that point.
And of course, we're talking this was probably like midnight, right? When you pulled in there.
It was.
It had been a long day. And hey, I think I told them the story before. You're talking about how you had to circle it a few times to find a garage. I love Ronnie and that, but look, I think in the ambulance we circled twice to find the ER entrance to get me dropped off. We were all having a kick with that. That's a big hospital, and it was dark and it was late, long day.
Yeah, it was.
So
we go in, and at first, of course, COVID's happening then. So there's a little bit of pushback about whether I'm going to go in with them or not. And, of course, I'm sure, as you all know, I've decided I'm definitely going in, and I don't care what they say. So I did behave myself and went through their screening process, got my little sticker. And then Jay was admitted to the neuro unit. It was kind of like a step-down unit for neuromuscular patients. or
Yeah, step down
basically
from
neurology patient.
ICU. Yeah.
Right. So this is where we're going to. So we go there, and we're literally like right under the helipad that lands on the the rooftop.
A very busy
So,
helipad.
so that was pretty funny because like literally we'd be sitting there talking, and then you hear the helicopter, and you're like, oh, there's another one.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I got the biggest kick out of trying to look out the window to see it fly in. Not that I've seen a helicopter fly into the hospital 1,000 times, but for some reason, it just really made me happy to see that. So we get a bit, get you into your room, we get settled in for the night, or what we can do for the night, and then we wait for the accepting physician to come in and talk to us and do an evaluation.
Yeah, and that was like I said, getting settled in, and I remember us both kind of looking at each other at the end of that day when we were trying to go to sleep, and just kind of like, whew, what the F, right? Like I can't believe we're here.
Yeah, it really was like a what the heck moment, because it's where I wanted to be. It's where but then we're actually there, and we're actually hopefully going to get some answers and get some treatment plan going.
Yeah.
So the next morning, we got visited by the accepting physician who came in. And of course, the first thing he says to us is, you almost really have some good friends, because that doctor was like a bulldog, and he was not going to let me say no to admitting you here. And so I was like, thank you, Dr. Sprayberry, again, for, going that one little extra step and just making sure that Jay was taken care of in the best possible way. So when he comes in, he has an attitude because he doesn't think we need to be there.
No.
So then he comes in with his little minions, and his minions are, of course, residents and medical students. And he starts doing his exam. And so his whole demeanor changes. So he's doing his exam, and he's like, well, that can't be correct. That can't be correct. So, because Jay has like no reflexes.
Yeah,
so no reflexes.
No reflexes in the arms and the legs at all.
Right, barely moving. And he's just like, this can't be like, he said, this is not CIDP. And we were like, I wanted to say, yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay.
Welcome to the party, Doc.
So after he did the examination, of course, his whole demeanor changed, and he was like, hey, we're gonna do, let me go talk to the team, and then we're going to come up with a plan on what we're going to do. So they did. He talked to the team, and they came back in, and basically they were like, we're starting over from scratch. We're starting over as if you haven't had anything done to you. We're starting from the very beginning and working our way through every process that this could possibly be. And they did. They CT'd, MRI'd, ultrasound, every part of his body.
Yeah, head to toe. Yeah, my entire body.
Had these labs drawn, they had all these weird, like really weird labs drawn. Some of them were sent off to the Mayo Clinic because that's where they had to go to be tested. And it was like, and then you're just waiting. You're waiting for those results.
Well, also too, in the time, right, then they started a second round of PLEX, right? So plasma exchange, which, of course, we would end up finding out was contraindicated in my disease, but this was before we knew what my disease was. So they're doing all those tests. I'm starting
doing all the tests.
Yeah, starting a plasma exchange.
Right. Starting IVIG. And of course he's starting to improve some, as what we're expecting him to do. So he starts improving, and then they're like, hey, we really want to, you're very stable, medically stable, but obviously you need some inpatient rehab. And would you be opposed to going to inpatient rehab? And I was like, well, of course not. We'd be happy to do that. So then, like right there at that moment, I decided we were moving. So I wanted to go to Spain to inpatient rehab, which is there in Birmingham. So I was like, okay, well, to make this happen, we have to move. So I'm going to sell my house. I'm going to find another job. I'm going to quit my job and move us here. And I said, okay, well, we're going to move to Birmingham. And Jay was like, oh, we could talk about it. I said, no, there's no talking. We're doing it. I was pretty insistent that was the plan, that we were going to move, and we did. So we started that whole process. That just whole first week was just kind of like a blur. While we're waiting, for something, some kind of answer. And finally, that was the week that they came up with that you had that protein. It's weird, some weird protein in some abstract test that they did that indicated you had multifocal motor neuropathy.
Yeah.
So they're like, so now we really have a diagnosis. This is what it is.
Yeah, 12
days.
Like,
well, we have a physician.
They did in 12 days what no one up to that point could get done in months. What a relief it was, because we finally knew what we were fighting. I mean, that was the craziest thing was the unknown for us. And now, we knew what the enemy was, right? And, something real quick, one of my favorite things I remember, I wasn't that I liked that doctor so much, but that morning, when he did that exam, when he went from all the attitude to, oh, shoot, this guy's sick. And, he said what every other doctor said, right? We have no idea what's going on with you. But I like the second part that he added that no doctor before him added, which was, but we're going to figure it out. And they surely did, right?
They did. They figured it out. So then we were introduced to Dr. Vasquez, and she is a neurologist, but she specializes in neuromuscular diseases at UAB. So they were like, okay, well, we're going to get you in to see Dr. Vasquez. We're consulting with her on a daily basis. So she was looking over the case and giving opinions on what she wanted to do, things that, we could do for the treatment plan. And it was just like a lot of stuff going on and nothing at all at the same time. It was very weird. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just like you've got all these things going on, but you feel like nothing's happening and nobody's moving to do anything in a timely manner. So we go through our hospitalization and we get admitted to Spain. We get moved over to Spain. Of course, Jay has the relapse, and being in Spain was definitely different. For sure. It was attached to Spain is a rehab center there, and it's attached to UAB Hospital. They are amazing. They have some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen for rehab patients. They have harnesses that are in the hallway so they can get you up and put you in a harness so you can walk in the hallway. I cannot tell you enough how much that facility is a blessing.
Yeah, definitely one of the finest in the country. And on a side note, actually, shortly here this spring, they'll be opening up their new hospital. They have that addition. I say addition, good gosh, yeah. I think they built a whole entire new hospital. And I can't wait to see what it has in it, Yeah,
it's going to be really cool to see.
Yeah.
So I guess from my perspective, I just have like 1,000 thoughts going on in my mind, but I finally have something that I can truly focus on and make it happen and give myself something to do besides sit there and worry and research all day long about something that I have no idea what I'm doing or no idea what I'm reading. And that is moving us to Birmingham. So I decided we're moving, and that's what we did. And literally, this is how you know that it was the right timing, right thing, right place. I applied for a job on a Thursday afternoon, and I got a call from the job that I applied for, and she was like, hey, she's talking to me, going over, what the job was. And I was like, oh, it sounds like something I'd really be interested in. And she was like, well, can you come up for an interview? Because, again, my address was listed in Daphne. And I said, well, actually, my husband is admitted right now to the hospital, so we're up here at UAB. And she was like, oh, cool, what room are you in? I'll come over and talk to you. And I was like, absolutely not. I hadn't washed my hair in 3 days. I had yoga pants on. I probably had a shirt that had stains on it. And I was like, absolutely not. So I was like, I just can't do that. And I was like, I don't really have, interview clothes. And she's like, oh, we don't care about that. And I was like, okay. So we set up to meet the next morning, and there was a Starbucks in the hospital. So we set up to meet at the Starbucks, have coffee, and kind of talk. And then just, she would show me the unit that I would be working in if I was given the job. So I show up to my little interview, and I had my little red chucks on and little capri pants and a shirt because that's what I had to wear. And we sat down and had coffee, and it was an immediate connection with her. She was amazing. My whole working team, my whole work team there, it was like being at home. Honestly, it was a lot like when I first started at USA in the ER. That whole family vibe, like we're coworkers, but we're more than that. We're family, and I just felt very, very comfortable. So, did my interview. Went to the office, and she's talking to me. She's like, okay, well, I'm going to put in for, to have them start your background check and make sure everything's good. She's like, you got the job. And I'm sitting there like kind of shocked because I really didn't expect that to happen. And I was like, oh, well, okay, awesome. I'm very excited. Thank you so much. And I go back to the room where Jay is, to his hospital room, and I remember his brother was sitting there, and so they both look at me, and Jay says, you got the job. And I said, I did, actually. I got the job.
Yeah.
So
hey, that's how you know. That's how you know it was meant to be, right? Who gets it? No one gets a job at UAB and that quick. I mean that place is huge, right? It's a huge medical facility. So
it is. So.
Well, I tell you, babe. I tell you, we'll kind of start. Go ahead.
Winding down.
Yeah, well, I'd say we're winding it down. I'm looking at the clock, but the big thing, like I said, and this is probably a good stopping point, right? Because we talk about, hey, you made the decision that we were moving, and then you got a job, right? And I was had been accepted to get transferred over to Spain. All that was kind of happening. Again, like I said, we only had been in Birmingham at that point, probably a total of 12 days, 13 days at that point. So I think that's a good stopping point. Again, thank you so much for taking a few minutes out your day, babe, and calling in. And some good stuff you shared. Like I said, we talk about, I tell you, I hear from people that, from the caregiver's point of view, and then they're so glad to hear your story because they've kind of heard, all of this through me. And I've told you this before, but I mean, when I listen to you talk, because you wouldn't tell me all of those things back in the day. So, a lot of this I'm hearing for the first time too. So it's something for all of us. So I appreciate that. And, we talk about all of that and the getting transferred up there. The doctor wouldn't take us, but we still got accepted. You got a job. Of course, we'll talk more about the house and all of that, but just all those blessings, all those little miracles. And that's why I tell everybody, man, that this whole thing has been so life-changing for me and my faith. And, so that's why when I tell people, have faith, man, trust in Jesus, right? He will provide. He'll make a way. And he surely did. So with that.
He did. And from a caregiver's perspective, I would just like to point out when these things are going on, little things that I found to help me not actually lose my mind was I did find a podcast that I enjoyed listening to. I couldn't, for some reason, couldn't concentrate enough to read a book, so books were kind of out, but I did find a podcast, and that gave me something to look forward to every day. Like, I'm going to go listen to my podcast, and it was literally like a little breakaway. So find yourself something that you can do that's similar, whether it's listen to a podcast or read a book. That's what you should do. And don't feel like you're being selfish because for taking time out, taking 1 hour out of the day to just recharge your batteries. Do it. It is necessary. It is necessary for your mental health. It's necessary for your physical health. And honestly, if it's your spouse that you're taking care of, it's necessary for your relationship. Because a lot of times when things like this happen, a lot of resentment can build up for different things. So you've got to find outlets. And that my outlet at that time was listening to this podcast. So I would just recommend, please find your own outlet and actually enjoy it.
And hey, if they want to make this podcast the podcast they listen to, I'll take them up on that too. So Well,
Yes.
with that, I want to thank everybody for listening. I hope y'all have enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoy hearing Christy talk and telling her point of view. And just like I said, we're so appreciative of everybody. And with that, I will say, trust in Jesus and remember, live your spirit.